In a world where billionaire ego forges weapons of tomorrow, one podcast dares to ask, what if they just said sorry? This is Super Sorry.
Hey there, and welcome to Super Sorry Takes on the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the podcast where we talk superheroes and super apologies.
We're Todd and Amber, longtime collaborators who love to discuss movies, TV, and media.
This podcast started out as a fun discussion between us, and now it's a place where we get to explore the emotional and psychological side of the stories we love.
And we're kicking things off with the MCU because I love superhero movies, and not just for their superpowers, but because most of them are just ordinary people facing real-life struggles that we can learn valuable life lessons from. Also, sometimes superheroes can be dicks.
And I'm here because I believe in the power of apology and in the idea that media can help us learn how to be better people. If superheroes are dicks, maybe we can try not to be.
Each episode this season, we look at an MCU movie and ask who messed up, who changed, and who maybe should have just said, I'm sorry.
You can expect psychology, emotional damage, financial chaos, and a whole lot of heart, all with a healthy dose of humor.
Oh, and fair warning, we're going deep, so if you haven't seen the movie we're talking about, consider this your official spoiler alert.
We're not experts, just fans with feelings. And if we miss something or get it wrong,
we are
super sorry. Before we get into it, here's a quick recap of Iron Man.
And heads up, spoilers ahead. If you haven't seen the movie, now's your chance to pause and catch up. You can find it on Disney+, but if you've seen the movie and need a refresher, check out the link to Marvel's Iron Man site in our show notes. You'll find character profiles, trailers, and more.
Here's our recap. Tony Stark is a billionaire weapons manufacturer who thinks he's untouchable until a kidnapping in Afghanistan forces him to rethink everything.
He escapes captivity by building the first Iron Man suit in a cave, comes home, decides to shut down his weapons program, sparking chaos inside Stark Industries. Meanwhile, his mentor, Obadiah Stane, has other plans, which leads to a showdown of armored suits.
The movie explores themes of accountability, transformation, and what happens when ego meets responsibility.
Now that we're all caught up, let's get into the apology audit.
It's time for the apology audit, where we each pick one fire apology that worked, so think fire emoji, and one misfire, an apology that technically happened but didn't quite stick the landing.
And for my count, there are 5 existing apologies in the film of varying degrees, and I am going to start off our ranking here, and my fire apology is coming from the character William, who is an arc reactor engineer that works at Stark Industries, and the scene is basically when Obadiah is upset at William that he can't recreate Tony's smaller heart-sized version of the arc reactor, that they already have a jumbo version at Stark Industries. And the line that William says is, I'm sorry, I'm not Tony Stark. And it's a clear apology there. He's taken full responsibility. It's an honest assessment of, kind of sets up Tony as being, this mythical engineer person that could do things that nobody else can do. But it's a good, solid, I feel like, apology that's coming from William. And kind of a fun fact, a side note of that performance is that actor is also an executive producer of the film Iron Man. And you also, which I didn't realize, I think for a few times of watching the movie, realized that that actor is also Ralphie in the movie A Christmas Story.
That's pretty funny. I didn't realize that was him. Yeah, I like this apology. I had made a note for myself. This is not my pick, personally. I think I have a better apology than this one.
Okay.
But I did like this apology because I think it was quite genuine and authentic, because he truly is sorry. He is not Tony Stark. He can't deliver on the same things that Tony would do. Tony's clearly a genius. Doesn't mean this guy isn't a genius in his own right, but he's not the level of genius of Tony Stark. And he has to, in that moment, apologize. Plus, he's talking to his boss, right? You have to say something.
No, good point. Yep. So. Yeah, so what do you have as your number one that's even better than my my William apology?
My fire apology is Tony Stark himself, and it's at the press conference that he holds after he returns from captivity, and he announces the shutdown of Stark Industries' weapons division. He says to the crowd, "I saw young Americans killed by the very weapons I created to defend them, and I saw that I had become part of a system that is comfortable with zero accountability." So while he doesn't say the words "I'm sorry," it's an apology. It takes full responsibility, and it not only takes responsibility, but it does it publicly. So it's this public acknowledgement of the harm that Stark Industries have caused and the fact that he saw it with his own eyes. And this is why I think this apology is better than the one that you proposed, is he offers a clear plan for change. He not only says, "I'm sorry, here's what we did," essentially, but here's the damage that was done, and here's what we were going to do to fix it. So to me, I really thought this was a great apology. The tone was very honest and authentic. It was remorseful, and it was also defiant in the moment that he knows that like the company has done wrong, but he is going to make a stand against the whole livelihood of this company, essentially, and do something different. And this scene, of course, begins Tony's redemption arc and sets up the conflict with Obadiah. So not only is it a really good moment of realization and apology, it sets up more action for the film.
And my disagreement with that being the better than mine is because mine actually says, "I'm sorry." Yours is an allusion to it, but I'll add on to yours. Tony does actually apologize for aspect of shutting it down. Later in the movie, he tells Obadiah that he's, sorry he didn't give him a heads up that he was going to shut down this division and all the ramifications. So he does say apology a little later, but still not in the scene you're describing. So I still think mine is the top. You have one more thing.
I have one more rebuttal here.
I can't cut you off and move on. Okay.
One more rebuttal.
Okay.
And that he says he's sorry he didn't give Obadiah a heads up. He didn't say he's sorry he made the decision. Just pointing that out.
Okay.
Now we can move on. So my misfire apology is the apology that Tony attempts to give to Rhodey, who has been waiting for him on the tarmac for hours before their flight to Afghanistan. And Rhodey says, "What's wrong with you? You kept me standing here for 3 hours." Tony doesn't really even apologize in that moment. They cut to a scene a little bit later on the plane where he says, "Don't be mad. I said I was sorry," which I don't think we ever actually heard him say he was sorry. And to me, the reason why this is just a total misfire is this apology, in air quotes, is flippant and insincere. Meanwhile, Rhodey here is expressing frustration. He feels undervalued. And instead, Tony just deflects with humor and alcohol.
Yeah.
And what does that do? I mean, I will say that Rhodey then kind of bends to Tony's will and gets drunk with him, and they have this weird conversation that I suppose is sort of a heart-to-heart, but I'm disregarding that. All in all, I think that this misfire of an apology highlights Tony's emotional immaturity and his lack of accountability when it comes to personal relationships.
Well, I'll definitely agree with you that it's a misfire apology. And now for my misfire apology, there is a scene where Tony is on the run, flying away from the U.S. fighter jets that are kind of chasing him after he's coming back from fighting the 10 rings in Afghanistan. There's a scene before this where Tony sees on TV that the 10 rings are kind of attacking the villagers in Gulmera, and the news reporter's like, nobody's going to help these tragedies happening, and decides as a private citizen, without any kind of military assistance, he's going to go there and take care of business. He has some unfinished business, I guess, with 10 rings from his time in the caves. So he flies out there and saves the day and saves the people, the village that are being attacked, and everything's all well and good. And he's flying back to the U.S. And then there is some satellites, that pick him up that see that something's going on there in Afghanistan. Unidentified flying object. The U.S. military fighter pilots flying there to see what's going on, and nobody really knows what this kind of crazy device that's flying through the sky is. Nobody's ever seen it before. And Rhodey ends up calling Tony because it's such a weird tech thing that maybe something's going on with Tony. Like it's the whole 10 rings thing. He's thinking, oh, Tony might have something to do with this. And as a private citizen, he shouldn't be putting himself in these military zones or whatnot. So Rhodey calls him from the military phone, and Tony deflects and says, driving with my top down and nothing to see here. It's that's the background noise. I'm just coming back from hiking or whatever. The conversation ends, and then the battle kind of ensues farther with the U.S. fighter jets, and Tony ends up trying to hide from the planes, holding on to it and all that kind of stuff. And he basically gets pretty dangerous his situation. So it's okay, I might need these fighter jets to back up on me. So he calls Rhodey back on his personal cell phone this time and has kind of a miscommunication at first where it says, "I'm sorry, it's me." And it's kind of, what's going on? Who's this? And it's, "Oh, I'm sorry. It is me. It is me. I am the unidentified flying object that you were talking about before." He kind of fesses up to it now that he's in mortal danger that I need you guys to back up. The reason that, it's not a great apology is, it's kind of reluctant and insincere. He's in danger of being attacked by the fighter jets and everything. The first apology attempt wasn't very clear. He had to kind of do it a second time. Obviously, Rhodey's, frustrated with Tony. He feels like he's not getting all the facts from him. So even though there's an apology there, it's like, it's not a really great apology that happens. Their kind of friendship / military collaboration, it kind of makes it all confusing too. So it's just kind of a messy apology, I guess, for me.
Oh, it's messy for sure. It's very messy. Now, did he give this apology before or after he damages the plane? So he and one of the planes collide. The plane starts plummeting towards the earth. The pilot has to eject. The pilot's parachute doesn't work.
Yeah.
And luckily, I guess, this is supposed to be the saving moment where Tony then, because he is there, he can then save the pilot and get his parachute working.
Yeah, so this is before that scene. Again, because he's calling on his personal phone. There's the military never really knows it's Tony Stark in this Iron Man suit. That's what this unidentified object is. So it's never kind of clarified, and the military keeps coming because it's never confessed to. And so then the scene basically escalates, like you said, where the plane ends up getting damaged and Tony has to save the day. So it is before that part, yeah.
Okay.
So
another
reason it's a messy apology.
It's never really even confessed to. Like, doesn't Tony actually owe an apology to the military, not just Rhodey, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's a problem.
Yeah, so definitely a misfire.
1,000%. All right. So now we need to decide our number one fire apology and our number one misfire apology. And once we do that, we're going to post these on social media. We'll get all of your thoughts. You can let us know what you think. But let's start off with our misfire apologies.
Okay. Yep.
Well, I do think the half-hearted apology that Tony gave Rhodey in my example, when he's late for the plane, is a good one.
Yeah.
The stakes are clearly higher than the apology that you brought to the table, this misfire apology. I mean, it's interesting that it's Tony both times and Tony both times to Rhodey. So we have two misfire apologies from Tony.
The relationship is definitely confusing. Their friendship / work colleagues, and these apologies are happening because of that, and confusion going on. There's some messiness there. So yeah, definitely I guess it's thinking through it. It's not surprising there's a lot of problems with that relationship. Yep.
I mean, it's not a surprise that Rhodey does not trust Tony at all, right? Like, would you accept any of these apologies if you were Rhodey?
Yeah.
It's bad.
Yeah.
But what do you think? Which one do you think should get it?
Well, I mean, I definitely prefer mine, like I said, because the stakes are high. But I do, feel like, the waiting on the plane is a big one. Like that was not my second biggest misfire.
I actually think the misfire that you have proposed has much higher stakes. So I agree. I think this is our number one misfire apology.
So now we're going to talk about our number one fire apology. And that is, for me, was the ARC engineer, William. And for you was?
Tony Stark's press conference where he apologizes for the weapons of destruction that he and his company have made and the impact it's had on the world.
Again, for mine, he actually says the words, "I'm sorry." So there actually is an apology, not an allusion to it. So once again, I'm going to stick with thinking mine's better. But I'm a little softer on this one. I can be swayed.
Look, I think this is obviously Tony heavy, but this movie is called Iron Man, so what the hell are we supposed to do about that? I'm going to stick to my guns. I think that this apology that Tony gives, just because he doesn't say the words "I'm sorry," not every good apology has to have the words "I'm sorry" in it. He said what he saw, the repercussions of what he saw, and the things that he's going to do to change it. I would argue that this other guy just says, "I'm sorry, I'm not Tony Stark, and I have no solutions for you." Isn't that what they tell you? Like when you make a mistake in general or at work or whatever in life, that you're supposed to come to the person or the people or whatever that you've impacted and you say, here's the problem, but here's what I'm doing to fix it.
Kind of gave my case against myself earlier, was when he does actually give an apology, not in this scene, but for that action later to Obadiah, saying he's sorry they didn't give him heads up. So he does say, I'm sorry. And I think because of that, even though it's not in the scene, I am going to relent and agree that yours is the number one fire.
Okay, so our top number one fire apology is Tony's press conference, where he takes responsibility for what Stark Industries has done and proposes a shift away from creating weapons. All right, we are aligned. So we're going to post our fire apology and our misfire apology up on social media. Let us know what you think. And up next, apologies that could have been, aka the Super Sorry verse. This is where we imagine the apologies that never happened, but maybe should have. So we've talked about the apologies that did happen in Iron Man, but what about the ones that never even showed up?
Welcome to Apologies That Could Have Been, aka the Super Sorryverse. And what's the Super Sorryverse, you ask? Think of it as our own multiverse where apologies exist. This is where we dig into the missed moments, the unspoken regrets, and emotional depths that were never acknowledged.
Because let's be real, Tony Stark can build a suit in a cave, but apparently not the emotional circuitry to say, I screwed up to Pepper.
In this segment, we each bring a few scenes that were screaming for an apology, the kind that could have made a real difference.
We'll talk through what could have been said, why it matters, and maybe even what it reminds us of in real life if we're feeling brave.
Or a little petty. Depends on the day.
So let's get into it. Who's your first Super Sorryverse pick?
I'm continuing with the Rhodes Tony kind of relationship. And basically, I'm calling him out for not being a supportive friend when Tony brings up his new non-military venture and tries to bring Rhodes into it after he comes back from the cave and wants to shut down the military division of Stark. He wants to do something better and good for the world. And he wants to bring his friend aboard and wants some support. And Rhodes is just not that into it. And he's kind of shuts him down and doesn't want to be a part of it. And kind of was excited when he first comes to him because he thinks he's going to come up with a military idea that Rhodes is all about. He works in the military, so it got to make sense. But then he's like, no, it's non-military. And he's like, no, you need to kind of check yourself and figure out what's going on in your world. Something's going on with you. And kind of not a very supportive friend to his new venture that is a non-military thing, the venture that Tony's coming up with.
This is interesting because I didn't actually clock that as a point where I would have liked to see an apology. But I do have an apology I wanted to see from Rhodey to the military for misleading them about Tony's activities. Like, my take was that his loyalty to Tony puts others at risk because of when he realizes Tony is in the suit, he doesn't call him out. He doesn't say anything to the military. And in fact, the next day he says in a press conference, there were things that went wrong with the training activity. And so it's really interesting that you clock this moment. And here I am clocking this other moment where I'm thinking about hey, Rhodey kind of, I think, screwed up when it came to the military too. Maybe there's some sort of discussion, not on camera, that we don't see in a scene, but he doesn't say anything to all those military folks working in that room, trying to figure out what's going on with the two fighter pilots and what they're trying to track down in the sky. So in some ways, Rhodey kind of screws it up both ways. He doesn't support his friend, but then he's also not fully maybe showing up for the military either. He's kind of playing both sides. I never really thought about this before, but now I'm you got me thinking.
Yeah, he's definitely kind of caught in the middle with his job and the military and his friendship with Tony, and he kind of swings back and forth, I guess, a little bit in this movie. Start thinking about it, then realize it happens or whatever. So
I actually wasn't even going to bring this up. It was just something I noticed when I was watching the film. But now, since we're talking about Rhodey, and I just want to bring it up, there's this moment towards the end of the film where Rhodey, played by Terrence Howard, looks at the suit that's left behind, yep, and he says this line next time. And then I think, oh, that's kind of sad because he didn't play Rhodey in any of the future films and he never got to wear a suit. Anyways, I just was thinking, oh, I feel bad. Sort of he deserves a little bit of an apology. I know there are probably other things that happen behind the scenes, but yeah, he never got to wear the suit. Just wanted to mention that.
What jumped out at me in that scene was not his reaction to the suit, but he drives off in Tony's Audi sports car and leaves his own truck in the driveway. He's like, oh, great, I left his truck behind to take Tony's car. So
I guess he got something, not a suit, but he got something that's hilarious. Well, one of the apologies I would like to see in the film is Tony needs to apologize for his horrible pickup lines. They are so cringy. They're so bad. He says something like, I'd love to lose a few hours of sleep with you, to Christine Everhart, played by Leslie Bibb. Total cringe. He needs a blanket apology to every woman he's ever hit on, because this is like, the lines are so cheesy.
I feel like it's almost intentional in their performance, because it shows he's so wealthy and so charismatic that even terrible pickup lines work on these women. So doesn't need to be super suave. But yeah, there's definitely some apologies, like I said, to Christine Everhart, the Vanity Fair reporter that he picks up after the gala or whatever, and takes her home with her, and Pepper has to deal with her or whatever. So there's definitely some relationships with the women in his life.
Also,
they come and go.
I don't know, like, about this Pepper's line to Christine, also about the taking out the trash line.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought that was pretty cold. And I thought Christine had a point about Pepper's role. And then she says something like, oh, he's still having you pick up his dry cleaning.
Enabling him, yeah.
I'm like, no, this is a good point. Like, she's like actually trying to advocate for you in that moment. Yeah. And here's Pepper like shutting her down.
Well, the scene right afterwards, it goes into when Tony, I think as I mentioned earlier, was in the garage working on his hot rod. And he basically says, has it been taken care of? Like the person or something, kind of a throwaway line. And but as you're saying, is like Pepper, I think, is acting the way she is in the scene. I think full aware of what she's saying is not the best, because her job is to kind of remove the person. So they're trying to be as cold to Christine, the reporter, as possible to get her out of the house. So they're trying to be as standoffish and not accepting, and not kind of, I'm sure not the first or last time.
I'm not saying it wasn't intentional or like she didn't do it for a reason. I just thought it was cold. And in retrospect, I hope that Pepper thinks she deserves an apology.
And I think there's a scene, too, later when Tony forgets Christine Everhart, the reporter's name. It's like, it shows him in that good light, but maybe that was intentional, again, trying to distance himself and not really have a deep relationship with anybody. He's kind of maybe purposely doing these things.
You can be purposeful and not an asshole. Just saying.
True.
I have one more.
Yeah, let's hear it.
I really wanted to see an apology from Tony and Pepper to Agent Coulson from S.H.I.E.L.D. Oh, yeah. They blow off his meetings the whole movie.
A couple times, yeah.
And in the end, he helps them save the day. He also helps them put together this press conference at the end. I just think Coulson deserved better, because he cleaned up the entire mess at the end of the movie. And it would have been nice to, again, like, get some sort of acknowledgement. Instead, at the end here in the tag, after the credits, we had to have Nick Fury come in and give Tony a talking to, which I guess was kind of a way to like stick it to him and point out a whole lot of other things for future movies that we're going to see. But I just felt for Agent Coulson, he was so persistent. He kept on trying to show up. Tony and Pepper were just flaking on him almost the whole time until they need him.
Yeah, I mean, he puts a lot of effort coming up with the 50 alibis for Tony, why he's on a boat in Catalina and Avalon, and has the blue cards all written out for him to read, and doesn't read them. And, he does his I am Iron Man line. So poor Agent Coulson. Yeah. Not respected until they need him. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's it for my apologies that I would have liked to have seen.
So I know we've kind of been talking, bad on Tony the whole time here, but I do want to give him a little bit of a shout out early in the movie when he's kind of being a jerk to everyone around him. It seems like there is a little sequence where he actually is giving $100 tips to the bartender when he goes down and gets some martinis, some dirty martinis. Actually, I think he goes there twice. The first time you see him do a tip, you don't really see how much it is, but then the second time they definitely are very definite. You see the $100 logo as he puts it in there to show the audience that he's not a terrible person. He actually tips well. So I want to give Tony a little bit of positive reinforcement.
Well, I like that. I think tipping should always be generous if possible. So nice to see that Tony was doing that.
So yeah, that's a wrap on Super Sorryverse, all the apologies that needed to happen.
So what makes a good apology? I keep thinking about ownership, empathy, timing.
We'll post our full Super Sorryverse picks online, and we want to hear yours.
Next up, Damage Diary. And now it's time for our Damage Diary, where we count the wreckage left behind by Iron Man, Obadiah, Rhodey, and more.
We've got major destruction to Tony's Malibu home, a convoy attack in Afghanistan, the Gulmira village battle, as well as job losses to Stark Industries for shutting down the whole weapons division.
Plus the PR disaster. I am Iron Man might sound cool, but it tanked stock prices faster than a missile strike.
So what's the damage? Our estimate, $550 million.
But here's the real question. What about the people caught in the crossfire?
Each of us picked a couple of innocent bystanders, folks who aren't superheroes, just unlucky enough to be in the blast zone.
These are the folks who'd write a diary entry or rage post on Instagram about their day. Todd, why don't you kick us off with your first bystander pick?
This is probably kind of an obvious scene to pull from. It's the end climactic battle when Tony and Obadiah are in their Iron Man suits fighting, which starts off in the Stark Industries and then moves to the adjacent freeway. There's a few cars and motorcycles and buses and people kind of collateral damage, as even Obadiah says through his dialogue, collateral damage, Tony. Like, that's a real obvious call out for the collateral damage that I'm referring to. He's like, pulling people, like motorcyclists off their bikes. He blows up the bus, just Obadiah to everybody, in the vicinity. And also, there's a mom who in a minivan with a few of her kids, and Obadiah picks it up, and when he says the line collateral damage, and throws it at Tony, who was able to catch it and put him down. But then the mom, probably rightfully so, is very scared and has her foot on the gas and has it redlined, and when it hits the ground, the tires, it takes off and takes Tony with her and ends up kind of running him over. So
I was just thinking about the terror that mom and those kids felt in the car. The damages to the car. I mean, obviously their emotional damage and trauma aside, Tony leaves scratch marks on the hood as he's trying to hold on. Yeah. And then she runs over him, totally damages the undercarriage, I'm sure, when she drives over him, finally is able to take off. It's a good reminder that, like, even when heroes are saving the day, it's still terrifying for everyone else. And you don't know what the hell is happening in that moment. And your instinct, of course, is just to get out of there, save yourself. And for her as a mom, to get out of there and save her kids. So,
yeah, I mean, you bring up a good point just about how the superheroes and the non-superheroes are kind of reacting to the scene. Like, I think the superheroes, their reactions based on they feel like they have some control of what's going on around them because of their superpowers, and all the bystanders obviously do not feel the same way. So they're definitely have a different reaction by not feeling in control and being caught off guard for most of the time when things like this happen. I
mean, how many times too do we see in these superhero films that the superheroes go directly into traffic, or where all these people are, usually like a high populated area. And I think about myself when I drive, how terrified I would be if I just saw something fly in front of me. Like when Tony's doing his first high altitude flight test, and it ends with him plummeting into traffic because he goes too high and he gets all the ice on his suit and going too high into the atmosphere. And then he's trying to break the ice off his suit and it's not working and he just plummets into traffic. And then we have these cars swerving, maybe they're crashing. I think about the panic and confusion for these people who just see something falling from the sky. So to me, I was just like, oh my God. And here it is, he wasn't even battling anyone then. He was just trying to learn how his suit works, but total near-death experience on your morning commute. I cannot imagine.
Continue with that thought in that scene when Tony's doing his initial Iron Man test through Santa Monica, and he goes by and flies by this little kid eating his ice cream cone on the Ferris wheel. It's like, what is this? And knocks his ice cream off, and he's stuck on a long Ferris wheel ride, and they're probably 10 minutes before he can get a new ice cream cone. There's his little sister there with him who still gets her, so maybe they can share. I don't know.
I totally picked that one too. I totally clocked that one. I thought that was a funny instance of some bystanders being impacted by Tony. You actually hit all my bystander picks through that one. You picked that one up for me.
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of continue with that thought, just to kind of maybe wrap it up with the the more innocent LA resident bystanders during the climactic scene when S.H.I.E.L.D. shows up with Pepper, and then Iron Man shows up to save Pepper, and then the battle kind of moves over to the from Stark Industries to the adjacent freeway. A lot of damage is occurring, and I'm not really 100% sure it was all necessary. I think the only thing really necessary, that the intervention that Tony did, because he looked like Obadiah was going to kill Pepper, so he kind of jumps in there and kind of starts it off. But what is Obadiah going to do if they just let him go? It makes me think of LA car chases on the freeway. They used to always chase them, and they would cause a lot of collateral damage to people around them. And at some point, I think there was a different direction where they kind of let the people go and not make more unnecessary damage happening. I wonder if there was a different way to de-escalate that situation, because at some point, Obadiah is going to be maybe needing a bathroom break in the suit. He's going to be there for the rest of his life. He's going to be in that suit. They kind of cause all this to kind of continue going. They do mention that Obadiah's kind of losing his mind and kind of freaking out. So maybe there was no de-escalation escalating of the situation, but maybe they didn't need to engage him and kind of cause all this collateral damage to occur. Maybe there was another way.
So that kid that lost his ice cream, I just keep thinking that he's probably telling this story for the rest of his life. Iron Man stole my ice cream. And that's Damage Diary. Because behind every epic hero shot, someone's stuck with the bill and a story they'll never forget. Up next, our biggest takeaway. Well, Iron Man has taken us on quite a ride. Our biggest takeaway? Power without accountability is a recipe for chaos, but owning your mistakes, that's what makes you a hero.
And sometimes the most heroic thing you can do is say, I'm sorry.
That's a wrap on Iron Man. From cave escapes to corporate meltdowns, we've covered it all.
We broke down the apologies that happened, the ones that didn't, and the millions in damage that, let's be honest, even a billionaire would feel.
But what do you think? Did we get it right? Who owed the biggest apology? Hit us up on social media and tell us what you think. You can find our socials in the show notes.
Or you can visit us at supersorry.com and join the Super Sorry Club.
And thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share the show.
Next time on Super Sorry Takes on the MCU, we're heading into The Incredible Hulk.
Think rage issues, smashed cities, and one very unlucky pair of purple pants. Until then, I'm Amber.
And I'm Todd. And we are
Super Sorry. Super Sorry is written and hosted by Amber and Todd. Produced by a Super Sorry LLC. Music by Jam Studio. Special thanks to themmost10.com, Gigster, movielocations.com, thenumbers.com, Box Office Mojo, and Wikipedia for helping us crunch the numbers in Damage Diary. Your support helps us keep asking the hard questions and saying the hard apologies. Thanks for tuning in and sharing with friends. And if you're listening from Gumira or Malibu, we are super sorry.
And have you always wondered why Tony Stark goes to Burger King instead of In-N-Out Burger in Southern California when he gets off the airplane coming back from the Afghanistan cave? It always seemed like In-N-Out, that was the perfect choice for your first American cheeseburger in a few months. But if we actually do a little mapping of where he's at that base to the closest fast food place, Burger King is actually the closest location to get an American cheeseburger. So In-N-Out, which is a half an hour away, it's a little too far to get that quick fix. So Tony, sorry for hating on you for the last few years of choosing Burger King instead of In-N-Out Burger. So give you the props you deserve. You went to the closest place. You really needed that hamburger.
Super Sorry is not affiliated with Marvel Entertainment, Marvel Studios, the Walt Disney Company, or Disney Plus. As of this recording, all Marvel characters mentioned in this podcast are the property of the Walt Disney Company.